is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
Hey there folks, and welcome to another rambling of mine. We have several things to discuss. We have Destiny 2, we have Pillars of Eternity, and maybe I'll wander off into other things like I sometimes do. You never know, eh? And so I wanted to just quickly begin this vlog by just saying why I haven't been doing the vlogs over the last number of weeks, why sometimes over the entire time that I've been doing this channel that sometimes I kind of vanish, disappear, don't do things for some time, and there have been reasons for that, and I have given you reasons for that, and I'll make this very brief. And to be honest, at the moment I'm actually talking, I don't even know if I'll leave this in the video because this is a gaming channel and I want to talk about games predominantly, but sometimes and every now and then I think it's important to maybe just throw in something that's happened in my life that I think may affect other people and may help someone else if they're going through a similar thing. And what's happened, well, recently I've not been doing vlogs, and the very simple purpose is, and for the same reason that I often disappeared for periods of time over the last number of years and so on, and yes, there was the house moves and everything else, but the main reason is that my mum has been extremely ill for 4.5 years, and she's been battling cancer. I think it's about 4.5 years. And sadly, that journey came to an end for her last Wednesday, when she passed away with me and my brother and my dad by her side. And it was all very peaceful at the end, and we're all gutted and heartbroken, but at least she's at peace now. There's no more pain, and we're very grateful for the 4.5 years that we got with her, because when she was diagnosed, without treatment, they said that she only had about 3 months. So to get I think it was 4.5 years, thereabouts, of time with my mum when we didn't even think we were going to get, 3 months, because we didn't know at that point whether mum was going to want the treatment, whether she was want to go through that journey, because that is a painful journey in itself, and you have to weigh up what kind of quality of life you're going to have with it and so on. But she did go on that journey, and she had 3 major operations. In between all of those operations, she was on chemotherapy, and the chemotherapy was horrible, but she would get, 4 days of feeling horrible on the chemo, and then she'd get sort of 4 days of having a good quality of life and being able to do stuff. But toward the end of her journey, certainly over the last year, it became not a great quality of life at all, almost bedridden for nearly all of it. And I mean, she got up and about, but no energy, that sort of thing. And so the journey became very, very, very hard for her in the end. And to which point she had decided that she was going to spend the last of her days in the hospice, which is just around the corner from my house, as it happens, Trinity Hospice. And I tell you, if you have a hospice near you that takes care of people at that point in their life, they are an absolute godsend. I can't praise that place enough. I can't praise the nurses enough. I can't praise just the whole being of that place enough. I mean, what we would have done without that hospice for my mum to see her final days in, I've got absolutely no idea. And the care and from everyone, not just the nurses, but the people that do the catering, the volunteers that work at reception, the volunteers that do the teas and the coffees, absolutely everybody was just incredible. And I don't know, if Britain's one of the few places that has these things. I don't know whether they're spread throughout Europe. I don't know whether America has them or not, but certainly this hospice has some government funding, but a lot of their funding comes from charity. It comes from people either buying from their little shops that they have or going online and donating that way. And in our case, we've said, instead of people giving mum flowers, giving us flowers at mum's funeral, we've asked to use that money and donate it to the hospice so that other people can benefit from what my mum benefited from in her final days. And it wasn't even just her final days. In between the operations, they would take her in, they would make sure she got nourishment, get her strength up so that she could go back home and have a quality of life. So it's not just about going there so that you can pass away. It's going there for a multitude of reasons, and you get all the care you need. And it's absolutely fantastic. So over the last few months, obviously this has been coming to an end with this journey with my mum, and that's basically why I've not been doing vlogs over the last few weeks, and it's why I've been distant sometimes from doing them, because I've had to go on these journeys whenever mum had an operation, whenever she went on the treatment. I haven't talked about it before because my mum didn't want anything out there in social media that might connect back to her. She didn't want the whole world knowing, so certain people knew, certain people didn't for a long period of time. So it was all that sort of thing, and that's why I've never mentioned it on the channel before. But you know, we've got the emotional journey now of moving on in life without her. It's all still really raw. It only happened last Wednesday. That's to say a week last Wednesday, and we have the funeral on this coming Tuesday. So it's all still happening, and the fact that I'm speaking to you and not breaking up is a little bit of a miracle. So you can thank your lucky stars you're not seeing me cry again, people. That's all I'm saying. After my blubbing on the Christmas video, I wasn't sure whether I'd get through this little bit. But I guess why I'm telling you is because I think it's generally important that anyone else who might be in the same situation knows that they're not alone, and there's a lot of other people in the world that are going through similar journeys. I think something like 1 in 3 people are touched by cancer. Whether that's the fact that they have it or whether a member of their family has it. And it's just it's just everywhere. It's absolutely insane. I mean, every other person I speak to has a story to tell about cancer, and it really is the plague of our generation at the moment. And the sort of, I mean, the strides they've made, and the I mean, you know, a number of years back, my mum wouldn't have got 4.5 years. I mean, it's as simple as that. So we're grateful for the strides that we've made in it. There are people that are, where they're able to get rid of the cancer for them and it doesn't come back. Unfortunately, in my mum's case, it was caught quite late, and therefore it had spread, and there wasn't much they could do other than, from the very off, we were told that they couldn't. No, that's not true, actually. The first operation, we were hopeful that it might be able to get rid of it, but it did reappear. It had managed to spread itself out. So that became pretty clear after the first scan that she had after the first operation, I think. And at that point, we knew this journey was all about just keeping with us as long as we could. So there was never any hope of I mean, it was always going to get her at some point. So so there's where I've been. I guess if you've ever thought about giving to charity, if you've ever thought about, not every week or anything, but if you ever have an urge at Christmas or an urge at Easter or an urge at some point in the holiday to give to a charity, I certainly, if you've got a local hospice that takes care of people at times like that, certainly a very good shout to be donating to at some point in your life if you could manage that. As I say, we've asked people to do that instead of sending flowers for the funeral, and I think it's money far better spent. And there you are. So I'll wrap it up for that. I want this to be a cheerful video. I just wanted to share where I was with. And as I say, as I'm talking, I'm not even sure if I'm going to leave it in the video, but we'll see. I guess you'll know if you hear it. So there you are. So we have several things to talk about. We have, as I say, we've got Destiny 2 and we've got Pillars of Eternity. Now, I'll start with Destiny 2 because I've spent probably a couple of days on it now-ish. Well, not a couple of days, it's not, but a day and a bit. And I've played through the main campaign. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet because I've got to the end of the campaign. I'm at the final boss fight, so I haven't actually seen the end of the story. But I'm at the final boss fight, so I'm nearly there. And my impressions of this, it's absolutely fantastic in comparison to the first one. I mean, I got a lot of joy out of the first one. I've got so many hours out of Destiny, it's just ridiculous. However, they've got rid of all the bugbears. So, all this sort of going back to orbit, picking up bounties, going on backwards and forwards, all that sort of stuff, and the way that you had to wear your best gear in order to level it up, and all this sort of stuff, wear your best gear, should I say, in order to turn in engrams and get the best out of them. All that sort of stuff is gone. And just in general, I haven't actually got into doing anything with legendary engrams or exotics yet because I haven't actually reached that stage. So, but what I can tell you is that the maps in themselves, well, there is a map. First and foremost, there was no map in Destiny 1. So when you went down to the planet, it was like, what do I do? Where do I go? So you've got a universal map that lets you pick the planet you're going to. You've got then within each planet, you've got a map in itself which shows you possible areas where you can discover stuff. It also shows you where your quests are, so you highlight and you can highlight them, so you get the little pointer on your little radar when you go down. And there are side missions and there are patrols which I haven't done yet, but they appeared just as toward the end of the story mode. And there are obviously main story missions and so on. I'm sure there's more to come. And there's just so much to do, which the original Destiny struggled with when it first came out. So from that perspective, everything's fantastic. The gameplay's fantastic. The weapons are really good fun. Still trying to get used to how they changed up the weapons, because they no longer have sort of light, a heavy, and a whatever. It's like a power weapon or a non-power weapon, that sort of thing. So I mean, it mixes up a little bit, but it's pretty much the same thing, you know. And there's a few extra things added in, like there was a submachine gun, for example, pitched up with arc on it and stuff like that. So I think it just opens more opportunity to more weapons having an elemental on them. So that in itself is more fun when you're playing. So, but by the same token, I was a bit sort of like, well, yeah, but a power weapon is either a rocket launcher or a fusion rifle. I mean, they're not really they're not really comparable as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I'll take the rocket launcher every time. So there's a few weird ones in there, but all in all, it's fantastic. The gear in itself, it doesn't look great at the minute. I've always found that with Destiny anyway. It always looks a bit crap until you get to the exotic or legendary stuff. But for some reason, I mean, I've only played as the Titan, but for some reason, all of the boots, that if you can imagine a pair of like Timberland boots, and someone's like, like a trendy person goes, yeah, well, what you do is you only lace half of them up and leave the other half undone. And that's what goes on your Titan, like in nearly every boot that he puts on. And it looks bloody awful. It's like, I think they've tried to go for some sort of resistance type look, because, you know, the tower's been destroyed, you're all kind of scattered, and, you know. So I think they're trying to go with the fact that you don't have the facilities you used to have. But by the same token, come on, I'd at least lace me bloody boots up. If I was running around shooting the hell out of everything, bloody things will fall off. So I'm not a big fan of that, but the rest of it looks fine. So that's pretty much it. I mean, well, and the story in itself was not any great shakes, to be fair. It was almost just the Taken King story again, but with someone that doesn't take people. and yeah, I didn't. For me, the best story they've done is still the Taken King. That the story we've just watched wasn't that great. I mean, it was kind of like, yeah, fine, someone's trying to steal all the light, but it was still big guy turns up, big guy wants all the power, and you defeat big guy at the end. Well, you will if you ever kill him. I haven't done it yet. So that's pretty much it. And there's another thing that's really bugging me, and my mate who plays it. At some point, they decided not to give the Guardians, that are characters that we create, a voice anymore. And there used to be a dynamic between the Ghost and the Guardian. So you could pick a female voice or whatever voice. And I think they had voices for different types of, if you were human or a robot or whatever. And the dynamic was better because they were bouncing off of each other. But all you get now, and all you've had since, I think, the Taken King or whenever it was, is just Nolan North's voice constantly. And it's like, I love Nolan North, but I don't want his voice constantly. I want my character to mean something. I mean, there was cutscenes in this thing where they've focused so much on the three Guardian leaders, Zavala and Cade and the woman, whose name I've forgotten. And they're in it really heavily. So they've spent loads of money getting their acting back in. But there's a meeting in it for the big finale, and they're like, this is the plan, this is what we're going to do, right? And then they go, right, and that Guardian, we need to get him to do the main bit, and we're not even in the room. It's like, we're supposed to be the main character of this game. Like, we don't feel like our character means anything other than, to tell him to go and do stuff. I mean, we're supposed to be the centre point of this game, but everyone else is the centre point, and not our character. So we're feeling a little bit detached from what we've created, So there's a bit of a bugbear there. But all in all, it's a fantastic game to play. And I'm really looking forward to getting my teeth stuck into the strikes, into the raids, which I didn't really get into in the last one, because the clan system, which they've brought into this one, isn't actually up and running yet. But that'll make it easier to get into the raids and everything with a group that you're happy with and comfortable with. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I've got a few bugbears that I've just mentioned, but other than that, really good. So if you had a few, if you liked the gameplay in Destiny, like the fighting and stuff, but you were fed up of it being really repetitive, probably a good time to give it another go, because they have really opened it up and made it a lot more interesting and a lot less annoying. All of this going backwards and forwards to camps. I mean, I've been back to a camp once in that entire playthrough. Once you're on the planet, you just go. So there's a person on each planet once you hit that part of the story that will dish out bits to you. If you want to buy stuff, sell, or whatever. So yeah, pretty good. And there's lots of sort of material bits that are similar to what they did before, but different because it's different planets and stuff. So yeah, well worth giving it a go if you had a few bugbears about the first one but loved the gameplay. And there you are. So we'll move on to Pillars of Eternity, which by far is the best videos I've done in ages so far as hits go. I mean, there's a lot of interest in those three. I've done 3 Let's Plays now, which is probably encompassing about... I think they're all about 1 hour. Well, the first one was 1.75 hours. It got quite long because I didn't want. There's a huge introduction to games like that, and you don't see much battling, so I did quite a long one. So that was nearly 2 hours, and then there's another. So it's probably about 5 hours in there, maybe something like that. And I'm really loving it. And there's a lot of me reading stuff to you because a lot of the dialogue isn't read by actors, and there's a lot of descriptive dialogue when you do stuff, which if I do the Let's Play and don't speak, you wouldn't get any gist of what has just happened. And it's a fantastic thing when you're playing it because it engrosses you slightly more. I think sometimes if everything's just spoken at you, a lot of things just pass you by. So it does kind of pull you into the story. It's almost like, I mean, I've said some of this in the Let's Plays themselves, but it is a little bit like reading a book that you can involve yourself in. It's a bit like that because even when they are speaking by voice actors, in between what they're saying is descriptions of what their facial expressions are and so on. So you're talking about companies that, because they're not giving you a cutscene or whatever for this conversation to happen, they've found a really nice way of giving you that description rather than it being a character's face on screen, which is never always great on games anyway, because a lot of face capture isn't fantastic. Some of it is, but a lot of people get it wrong, like they did with Mass Effect Andromeda. So to have that sort of descriptive, those sort of descriptions as you're going through it is really nice. And even when big climactic moments happen, it's usually there's a bit of visuals, and then especially in the first Let's Play, and then there's a lot of descriptive text to read through. But it's interesting. I mean, for those people that have been watching it, I'd be really interested to know if you like me reading all that stuff out. I've basically come to the point where I just don't see the point of not reading it out because you wouldn't know half of what's happening. So if it's annoying, let me know. But I thought it was. I mean, my reading isn't fantastic. I mean, I try my best, but I'll stumble on certain words, and especially when you're looking at Old English and stuff like that. So I do try and read it as best I can. But I think it's a help, because if I don't do it, it's not going to make any sense. You won't get any idea of what's just happened at all, other than there's a big shiny thing happened over here. That's pretty much it. But if something very significant happens in conversation, you will get the voice actors behind the words that pop up. However, I have noticed sometimes they do voice some of the replies, but they don't voice all of them, and then I have to interject. And also, if people are watching these Let's Plays on mobile devices, the text that you can see is so small that I feel like it's a help to read it out anyway, so that you don't have to rely on watching it on a big monitor or something. So yeah, but I'm really, really impressed with it. Now, this was a crowdfunded game. It's kind of on the same Wasteland 2, Divinity, Original Sin. It's in the same realms as that, and it's been compared to Baldur's Gate, which I've never played. And yeah, for me, I think Divinity is slightly smoother in its action a little bit, because at the moment in this game, everybody just kind of goes bang, and everyone ends up together in the same thing, and you can't pan the camera around, so it's very difficult to get onto the character you're trying to attack or do stuff with, or so you have that one angle, and it's all you can work with. So that's my only bugbear with it. But outside, because I mean, unless there is some way of panning around, and I don't know what the buttons are. There's also a little thing in the bottom right hand corner, which I've mentioned several times when I've been playing, that shows you the sort of journal bit and a few other things, and I can't figure out how to work it. Like I've pressed every button and I can't figure it out. So if anyone knows the answer to that, they can let me know. But you can feel it was created for a mouse, so it's been ported into consoles now, but because it'd be a lot easier with a mouse to get it very exact on where you want to be on the screen. But by the same token, though, I tend to just make my characters fight. I did change the formation. I noticed there was formations, so that has helped sort of pull certain people back and stay a distance. And you can move the characters to different positions in the battlefield as well. So I'm just sort of still getting used to it, and we're just starting to get some slightly heavier fighting now. We've gone into the basement of the temple, and we were starting to get all sorts of creatures down there. So I'm really looking forward to doing more. And they're very few. That's just some tiny issues I've got with it. All in all, it's a fantastic game and really engrossing. And I'm hoping... The other thing I couldn't figure out is when I used the spells that I had on the mage, I've no idea how to get them back. It just says 0 on all of them. It's almost like it's a scroll you had, but it wasn't. It was an actual spell that was learned. So I don't know if that's because I've run out of something or what. So I need to figure that out as well. But yeah, and I love they've got the two radio menus, one of which deals with sort of behind the scenes stuff, and then the other one that deals with the action stuff on screen. And I love that, and that's very Dragon Age Origins orientated. I love that type of thing. So yeah, I'm absolutely loving that, and obviously people are very interested to see where that's going. I think the first video's into its 400s now. Second one's kicking 200 or halfway there. And the third one was getting similar types of hits that I only put up, I think, yesterday or something like that. So I will continue to do those. I think I'll continue to do it anyway, even if it really tails off, because I think it will be something much like Divinity and Arcania, where as the years roll on, people will stumble across it and it'll be helpful to them to see what it's like. Because there's always a bit of a surge with these things when they first come out. And then months and years down the line, somebody else goes, oh, well, I never knew that game existed, and they start looking at it. So, and it's nice to have another Let's Play all the way through on the channel, which would be nice. Divinity was the last one I did, and I didn't quite make it to the end. I nearly did. But there's a lot there that will help people. But I had to Google the hell out of that game. I mean, there was so much I couldn't figure out. Jesus, that was a thinker. This game seems a lot easier in that respect. It does guide you very specifically. The areas aren't anywhere near as confusing. I don't know, maybe it gets a bit more complicated as you go on, but it does seem very clear. It says go to blah, we're going here, we're going there, and that's that. And I hope it kind of stays that way, because Divinity Original Sin, I could see what it was trying to do, but it was so much work. It was like you've got to talk to everybody multiple times in this entire village, and it just, after the first time, even the second time, it gets, it's like, that's enough now. Just tell me where to go and I'll go do it. I don't mind figuring out some stuff, but, I'm not Sherlock Holmes, people, So there you are. Yeah, so that's pretty much my opinions of these two games at the moment. Early days of both of them. I've only just at the end of the campaign in Destiny 2, as I say. And I'll be... anyone who plays Destiny knows that the story's only a fraction of what it's about. Obviously, it's all about your co-op play with your mates, and if you're into the Crucible, that sort of thing. But it's all about the co-op play for me, the strikes and the raids and all that sort of thing. So I'll really get my teeth stuck into it in the coming weeks and months. And, well, I'll try and do at least a few of these Let's Plays a week. I mean, I was trying to do one every other day, which I've managed at the moment, I think, with Pillars of Eternity. I will try and keep those trickling in regularly rather than having big gaps between it. But we'll see how life goes. As obviously with things that have happened with Mum and everything, we'll just see what time's like, and other things may raise their heads to be doing. But we shall see. So, as always, it has been an honour and a privilege serving for you in this vlog again. I'm going, as always, to finish my beer and possibly put another one in there. And I shall see you all next time. Take it easy, folks. Bye.